All right, so here we are. We're on the ninth green here at Boulder Country Club, and we're at the back of the green. This green is sloping back to front and from right to left, with the grain taking the ball from right to left as well. It's about a 40-foot putt or so. And I want to talk about as far as green reading, right, and visualization, and what technique do you want to use to read the green. And there's a couple of them. You always want to go ahead and check out the grain and look down right on top of the hole. And this is a great way to understand which way the grain is going. So you'll notice the way this cup is cut. It's smooth, 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 and then from here to here is all this rough grass. And that is telling me that wherever that's not smooth, that is the direction the grain's growing. So the grain is going this way because this is where it is. So the best way to read the grain is to go up to the hole and take a look at it and see, okay, great, now the grain is going that way. There's also yardage books. Some clubs have yardage books like we have here, and that will help you to determine that as well. But it's always great to start there. Then from there, for someone who's more mid-handicap, a great way to look at it is to try to pick the apex or the furthest point out from where the ball is going to start breaking back down towards the hole. You work your way back from the hole back to where, to your ball. So if I'm just going to pick one spot and I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to try to hit the ball to this spot here and let the gravity take it back. For the lower handicap player, tournament player, another way to look at it is to divide the putt into 3 segments, with the segment closest to the hole being the most important, because that's where the speed will be decreasing on the putt, and whatever slope or grain there is will take effect in that final third of the putt more so than it will at the beginning of the putt. So we pay special attention. The most important part would be the closer you get to the hole is really where you want to start. So, I might say, okay, I see the ball rolling in from about right here, right? I'm going to come to here, maybe here. Okay, that looks good, right? And then you come back to your ball, and you have a really good idea of where you want to hit the putt. Once I survey the area, I go down and I put tees down, and I start at the hole, and I'll go back and I'll put down the first tee, and then I'll back up and I'll put down the second, dividing it into thirds. So I've divided this putt into thirds, and I'm going to have my ball somewhat mimic these tees and see if I can get it close to the hole. The idea is that those are markers or guides. There's the apex, that's the furthest out the ball is going to go, and then it's going to come back to the hole, so that I will be basically aiming at that first tee, that first third, and trying to have the ball mirror the tees. Pretty good putt. You'll notice I missed it on the low side. I didn't quite hit my marker on that tee out there. It went to the left or below the tee, and that's why it crossed the mouth of the hole before it got to the actual hole. So this next one, I'm going to have to maybe just take it out a little bit further. And so it's a good feedback as to how your green reading is. If your eyes tell you this is where you should put the tees, and then you go ahead and hit the ball there, and you realize that you get a result that's not what you're looking for, then you can use that to gauge your green reading skills and your ability to assess where those thirds actually break out. That's a better result. All right, I'm going to make this one. That's how we do it. It actually is about, maybe 12 inches past the hole, which is a good sign. Another inch of break and that would have gone in. However, it did cross the mouth of the hole before it got there, so it missed on the low side, which is unfortunate. But on a putt from this 40, 45 feet with this type of this is one of the hardest greens on the course. I mean, that's a really good result if it's not going to go in. What I did was I divided that putt into thirds, right? And the green is sloping from back to front and from right to left. And the grain is taking it from right to left as well. So I've got a bunch of stuff. I really need to give it more break than I want to, essentially. And we know that people underread their breaks. So, especially the mid and high handicappers, they underread their putts by 100%. You need to almost double what you're seeing. And some of that relates to eye dominance. And that's why it's important to know what your dominant eye is. But I'm just going to say, go ahead and give the putt more break and see how things go for you. And pay attention to where you're missing your putts. Is it crossing the mouth of the hole before it gets to the hole? That tells you immediately that you're under reading your putts. And another way to improve your putting the quickest is to actually track your putting. Have a putting sheet. Do I miss it left, right, short, long? And you'll start to see tendencies, over the course of a round. Gee, I miss 60, 70, I miss 70% of my putts to the left. Well, that should tell you something. Or none of my putts 80% of my putts do not make it to the hole. Same thing, then maybe you need to work on a little more speed control. And again, if you're gonna miss the putt, we're looking for 14 to 17 inches past the hole. Is better than being 2 inches short of the hole, because it never had a chance to go in, right? You wanna miss the putt on the high side, give it enough break so that it doesn't cross the mouth of the hole before it gets to the hole, because that putt had no chance of ever going in. So we call that the high side. You wanna miss on the high side, not the low side. And if high handicappers, they miss every putt on the low side. But if you look at it from here, it certainly doesn't look like there's that much break. If you stand here, and my ball's right here, and if you're just looking right down at the hole, it doesn't necessarily look like you need to give it that much break. A lot of it's local knowledge, but most people are gonna sit here and they're gonna look at this putt and they're gonna hit it like this.
That was pretty good. You wanted that to not be good, right?
That was a good line, but I had too much speed for that line. If I would have hit the ball on that line with less speed, it might have gone in. So when I take this more direct route on this particular putt, and I'm trying to demonstrate what happens if you don't maybe give it enough break. And it looks good, it actually hits the cup, but you'll notice on that line, if it doesn't go in the hole, it has no choice but to run quite a distance past the hole, which is not ideal. It also depends on, do you like the ball to die into the hole, or do you like a little more aggressive? And if you like to die in the hole, then you have to give it more borrow, you have to give it more break. Because as it slows down, the gravity takes over and it's going to go wherever the break or grain is going to take it the slower the speed. The quick speed doesn't affect it as much when it's going quickly. So in order for my intended line, I want the ball to kind of die in the hole is my MO, or how I like to putt. Just kind of drip in the hole, not with a lot of speed. And that's for a couple of reasons. The hole's 360 degrees. It can come in the side door, the back door sometimes. If it's got real low speed, it can kind of fall in, where your margin of error is much smaller when you increase your speed. Kind of like driving a car. You get going too fast and you have to be more precise with your angles in the turns. So I'm gonna take it out, have a little more break to it, and have it die in the hole. That's a better result. I know it's so counterintuitive, but when we're talking about putting, your attitude and your self-belief and really being able to visualize the ball rolling on the line that you have picked is important. And then, in execution, it's about actually getting the ball to start out on that intended line, which is what we use some of those training aids for back on the other green we talked about. But you're gonna make more putts if you believe you're gonna make it. Trial and error, realize that you're under-reading your putts for the most part, especially the high handicappers. Give it twice as much break as you want and start to believe that you're a good putter and that you're gonna make these putts, as opposed to sitting there saying, I'm not having a self-doubt or I'm not gonna make the putt, because you're really not gonna make the putt with that attitude. And this has nothing to do with mechanics. This isn't mechanics. This is about belief, self-belief. And I have to say, it's one thing to be able to do it, but before you can do it, you have to see it. You have to be able to imagine it and visualize it, and then it becomes a matter of actually getting the ball to start on that intended line. Because if you're starting it out on the wrong intended line, or it's not on the line you want, you're going to have issues. But it's more important to have the bigger picture of, okay, I'm just going to give it a bunch of break and kind of see how it works out, and work with that, as opposed to being ball locked, technically locked, mechanically locked. Oh, I need to make sure I'm doing this and that. No, get out of that and just take a big picture. Okay, I'm going to aim it out here and give it a run. All right, and just so we can be realistic, or you can be realistic with your expectations and setting some realistic, smart goals when you're talking about your putting. We have a putt here from 3 feet. These tour players, PGA Tour average is 90% made from 3 feet. So that means 10% of the time they're going to miss this putt. The best players in the world are missing 1 out of 10 of these. So, you know, it's just amazing. And then from 4 feet, they're 80%, right? If from 6 feet, they're 50%. Again, which is hard to believe. 6-foot putt, these guys are missing half of them. So you don't expect to make them all. And then if you jump out to 10 feet, it's 30%. They're only making 30% of those putts on average. And it is skewed because the guys on television that week are the ones that are making all their putts, and it makes it look like they make it look easy because they're peaking. They're peaking. They're having the best week of the year, maybe of their life, and they're 50 for 50 inside of 10 feet. And then from 20 feet, you're only making 10% of them. So you're not going to make too many of those putts. And that is why I've been harping on, don't practice 10-foot putts. Don't practice 20-foot putts. You can practice rolling the ball 10 and 20 feet to get a sense of what kind of effort it takes to get that kind of momentum, but don't go to the specific hole from that distance. It's going to reinforce bad. It's just bad. Everything, you're missing it. You're not used to it. You're not going to like it. If you can practice your longer putts, but you're practicing them to a distance, not to a hole. The way I practice the longer putts is putt to fringes. I putt across from one green to the other side of the green. I'll put down tees, put down golf clubs, whatever, but I walk it off and get a sense of what, you know, okay, I want to work on my 30-foot putt today. You know, you don't need to putt to a hole to do that. If you're going to putt to a hole 3, 4, 5, 6 feet, maybe 7 feet with a line down on the ground where it's a straight uphill putt and you really get used to it rolling in, that's fine. The idea is that if you're going to putt to a hole, make it to a distance you can make, so you start to build that positive reinforcement. That's it for today. Thank you for tuning in. And as we launch this new channel, we really appreciate your likes and your subscribes and comments as well. Thank you very much.